So I downloaded a piece of ransomware that came in my email, and I decided to take it apart, look at the code, see exactly how it works in a more in-depth way. And what I want to say about this ransomware is it's basically like an onion. It's got multiple layers, and every layer is designed to trick the antivirus programs into thinking that it's a legitimate piece of software. And what I found, we've got the first layer, which is an email that came in, and the second layer is a zip file that's stuck as an attachment to the email. When you open the zip file, you get a JavaScript file, and when you try to execute the JavaScript file, you find that it's got this huge array, and it's UTF-8 encoded. And when you decode the UTF, you end up with a big pile of gibberish variables that get JavaScript concatenated together. And then that whole thing just takes you to another website in the background and that file messes up your computer and encrypts everything. So how does it work exactly? Well, if you're stupid enough to open the zip file, so what we basically have is the zip file that I downloaded from the email attachment, and we're going to open it. We're going to scan it with Norton Antivirus first, just because Norton's gonna fail to detect a virus, and I clicked on more, and it took me to some stupid semantic site that didn't even help me. I will say it takes a few days for Norton to figure out what the ransomware is when the new ones come out. That's why you need to be extra careful. So I extract the JavaScript from the zip file, and looking inside the JavaScript, we try to scan the JavaScript with Norton, and again it fails to detect the virus. So if we open this with Adobe Edge Code or Notepad, what's UTF-8 encoding? Well, when you're typing something on a keyboard, you've got 26 letters, right? A to Z, and then you've got capital letters A to Z. So you've got 52 letters plus 10 digits, so that's 62. Plus you've got all kinds of weird Chinese characters and the @ sign and the hashtag and whatever. So if you think about it, you've got, let's say, you've got something like 200 or some characters. So computers and code, they need a way to represent those characters simply. And there's a number of different schemes for representing characters. There's ASCII and whatever. So UTF-8 is a way to represent characters. So for example, every UTF-8 character is 2 letters, or is represented by 2 characters. So for example, the letter L is represented by 4C, the letter M is represented by 4D, the letter N is represented by 4E, the letter P is represented by 50, and in JavaScript, when you write a letter or a character in UTF-8, you precede that with a slash and then an X and then the 2-character code, which is exactly what this virus did. It took its evil code and it turned it into UTF-8 and it encoded it so nobody could read it. And it did that in 2 arrays. So the second array was the code. So it listed all of the UTF-8 codes. There's something like 200 of them. And the first array contained numbers. So this sounds pretty messed up, but it kind of works like this. So if I made an array, if I wanted to write the word example in UTF-8, what I did was I made the second array at the bottom, and I filled it with letters. But I didn't put them in alphabetical order. I put them in a random order. The virus took it one step further. Instead of writing the letters as letters, it wrote them in the UTF-8 format. So B would have been /x number. D would have been /x number, whatever. So then I took the position of each letter in the second array and I stuck them in the first array. So if you look at the letter E, it's the third character in the second array. So I put the number 3. And the letter X, it's the fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the fourth character in this array. So I put the number 4. And then the letter A, it's the seventh character. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I put the number 7. Now the JavaScript is smart, and it ends up reading the second array in the order that the first array tells it to, and then it decodes the UTF-8. So you can see that the variable WC3, which takes up the whole screen, that's our first array. That's basically the code in reference to the second variable WA at the bottom, which contains the UTF-8 codes. So what I did here is I changed the file extension to HTML so that we can view the JavaScript virus in a web browser and then Adobe Edge code. And we're going to change this virus from JavaScript to HTML, and the HTML part is going to have the script tags so that the web browser recognizes it as JavaScript code and executes it. Of course, it's not going to execute exactly the way the hackers think they will, but I'm going to show you what we did after. Since now it's not a pure JavaScript running off the computer, it's just a HTML with a JavaScript. What I did was I put a document.write into the virus and forced it to print its code instead of running it in the background. So I'm adding document.write to the bottom of the code, and we're just writing the output of all the code, the GU variable basically, and JavaScript's gonna print the value of GU now. And we found another big pile of gibberish. And what happened is now the JavaScript that we decoded is broken up into chunks, and then the chunks are randomly thrown around and then put back together. So this is called string concatenation, and the way that it works is by example here. If I'm writing the sentence, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, what I've done here is I've broken the sentence into chunks, a whole bunch of chunks, and I didn't necessarily put them in order, and every chunk is a variable. And then I make a huge variable and I tell JavaScript, put all my variables together and do it in this order. So the JavaScript says, what's var A? It's th. What's var C? E space Q U. What's var B? ICK. What's var D? BRO. So it just grabs pieces and puts them together, and we end up with the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, which is the code that the virus wants to run. So this is a result of the document.write. It's a JavaScript. It's a new JavaScript file that contains a whole bunch of variables at the top, and it's basically telling itself take the value from each variable and stick them together in this order. And the bottom half of the screen contains all the variables with their values. Or, sorry, the top half contains variables with their values, and the bottom half says stick them all together. So, not necessarily in that order, but we found that I can see like little fragments of a URL, so I look for where those appear at the bottom, and I copied that out, and then it became obvious that hey, we've got a URL here that's in millions of little pieces, or maybe not millions, but a few dozen pieces, and so I'm searching for each variable and then copying its value. So I'm searching one at a time, and I'm building a URL HTTP. And spoiler alert, we get a URL to Italian website. It's a website for a fireplace manufacturer. I don't think the fireplace manufacturer has a hacker on staff, but you never know. I think what probably happened was their site got hacked. Anyway, I could have written another script to basically write the whole code out, which I should have probably done, but essentially we don't want to execute the script. We're just a bit curious as to what it does, and the script itself isn't doing much except telling us to go to some other website, and that's where the trouble really starts. And you can see it's executing something in the system root of Windows. So now we've got our URL. First I went to Google for this URL to see what it's up to, as I wasn't totally sure. So we didn't bother to put this whole thing together because it's huge. But I did find a piece of a URL in the fragment, and I looked around it, and I figured out exactly what it was up to. There was a URL, and it took us to this Italian furniture site, and we went from there. Forced the exe to download, and from what I can tell, this Italian furniture site is probably just hacked by somebody. It's a server that had poor security, probably, and the hackers uploaded a virus to the server that was compromised, rather than using a Russian site that would give away their identity right away. So yeah, we search for the Italian website and we get to this fireplace manufacturer, and it doesn't look like there's much going on in here at all. But I try the full URL now. It looks like I forgot a colon somewhere, so it didn't work. But we put the colon in, and boom! You see, it forced this file to download. So the exe itself we couldn't really analyze, so that was the end of that. But we do know that the exe is what causes your computer to get encrypted. So the file is an exe, but it has no extension, and again, that's to prevent all kinds of security tools from blocking it. And I opened it in Notepad to determine if there was a comment or a copyright notice. Now this is code that's already been compiled, so we don't expect to see much in here, but occasionally we got little artifacts that let us see something. In this case, there's absolutely no clues in this, but we know that this is the code that actually performs the encryption, and at some point communicates with the server, I guess. We opened it with Hex Editor Neo, which is a very good hex editor. We've got got a couple of hex editors that I like to use. This one is good for smaller files where you're not doing a lot of searching. And again, this virus also didn't get picked up by Norton. So the hex editor doesn't really show anything. Nothing whatsoever. So pretty much this is the end of the line. We're not gonna try to run the virus and encrypt our files and let the Russians onto our computer. So that's about all we can do. But if you have any questions about this, or pretty much any question, just leave a comment and we'll answer your question. Thank you.